buyers, we're listening to workers. Shortly, we will be introducing a...
Now you can see the reason China has decided to retaliate to also start anti-dumping probe on Canada. In what can only be described as a blatant display of economic warfare, China's latest move to target Canada's lifeblood crop, canola, is nothing short of a calculated slap in the face. Beijing, emboldened by its unchecked power and vast economic influence, has taken aim at the very foundation of Canada's agricultural industry. As if the world needed another example of China's ruthless playbook, this anti-dumping probe reeks of political retaliation. Canada dared to challenge China's dominance in the electric vehicle market, and now Beijing is making it painfully clear that no challenge will go unpunished. Ottawa's decision to impose tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles was an act of self-defense, a necessary step to protect the domestic market from a flood of underpriced imports, but China, ever the opportunist, has now turned this into a personal vendetta against Canadian farmers. Let's not mince words, this is economic bullying at its finest, a power play designed to cripple Canada's economy while sending a chilling message to the rest of the world: cross us, and you'll pay the price. And while Canadian officials offer hollow assurances, the question remains: how long can they hold out against one of the world's largest economic giants? China has made it clear they're not just playing the game, they're rewriting the rules. Stick with us as we dig deep into this explosive dispute and uncover the real motivations behind Beijing's latest assault on global trade. Hello and welcome back to Innovative Check YouTube channel, where we delve into the innovative and transformative projects changing our world. If you're new to the channel and enjoy learning about innovation stories around the world, you've come to the right place. Please subscribe, like, and comment to help boost our videos on YouTube. China's decision to launch an anti-dumping probe into Canada's canola imports comes at a time when tensions between the two nations are already simmering, the relationship often fraught with economic and political disputes. Took another turn when Ottawa recently imposed tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles (EVs). This latest move by Beijing is seen as a direct retaliation, signaling China's dissatisfaction with the escalating trade measures taken by its North American counterpart. The ripples of this decision are being felt not only in diplomatic circles but also in commodity markets, where the price of domestic rapeseed oil surged to a one-month high as traders and investors reacted to the news. Canada's Minister of Agriculture and Agri-Food, Lawrence Macaulay, expressed his concern, calling the probe deeply concerning the Canadian government, already facing pressures from farmers and exporters. Now finds itself in a delicate position. Macaulay took to X, the social media platform previously known as Twitter, to assure Canadians that Ottawa was carefully monitoring the situation and that the government would take every possible step to support the agricultural sector. The canola industry, in particular, is crucial for Canada's economy, with a significant portion of its exports destined for China, a country that relies heavily on oilseeds for both its domestic food supply and industrial purposes. What makes this situation particularly sensitive is that Canada's recent tariffs on Chinese EVs and other goods were part of a broader international effort to counter China's economic influence, following in the footsteps of the US and the EU. Canada imposed a 100% tariff on Chinese electric vehicles, alongside a 25% tariff on steel and aluminum. These measures, aimed at protecting domestic industries and limiting China's dominance in certain sectors, have had predictable consequences. The Chinese Ministry of Commerce, in a swift response, expressed its strong opposition to what it described as discriminatory unilateral restrictive measures. According to the ministry, China's actions are not only justified but necessary to protect its own economic interests. More than half of the canola exported from Canada ends up in China. This makes China not only one of the largest consumers of Canadian canola, but also the biggest oilseed importer in the world. Canola, or rapeseed, as it's sometimes known, has a variety of uses. Ranging from cooking oil to renewable energy, it is a vital crop for Canadian farmers, who have grown increasingly reliant on Chinese demand. The Canola Council of Canada, which represents the interests of the industry, has expressed confidence that the anti-dumping investigation would ultimately reveal that Canadian exporters have not been violating any trade rules. The council pointed to the 5.0 billion Canadian dollars, $3.7 billion US dollars worth of canola Canada sold to China last year as evidence of a strong, mutually beneficial trading relationship. However, the financial markets have already reacted to the news. In China, rapeseed meal futures jumped by 6%, reaching 2,375 yuan, $333.56 per metric ton. This sharp rise was driven by fears of supply disruptions and uncertainty about the outcome of the investigation. Meanwhile, in Canada, the ICE canola contract for November delivery dropped sharply, hitting its daily limit of $45 or 7% to $569.7 per metric ton. The sudden market volatility underscores the high stakes involved for both countries. China's Ministry of Commerce outlined the rationale for its investigation, citing the significant increase in Canada's canola exports to China in recent years. According to the ministry, Canada's canola exports reached a staggering $3.47 billion in 2023, a 170% increase from the previous year. This rapid growth, coupled with declining prices, has led Chinese authorities to suspect that Canada may be dumping its canola in China, selling it at artificially low prices to gain an unfair advantage in the market. The broader context of this trade dispute points to an increasingly tense global economic environment, where countries are resorting to tariffs, sanctions, and retaliatory measures to assert their interests. Canada's alignment with the US and the EU on the issue of Chinese EVs and metals is part of a larger geopolitical strategy aimed at curbing China's economic rise. However, as this latest development shows, China is not backing down without a fight. Just a quick reminder to hit the like button below. YouTube has been restricting my videos a lot recently because of bots, so your like does help out this video massively in terms of the algorithm in YouTube. The anti-dumping probe is just one example of how Beijing is leveraging its economic power to push back against what it sees as unfair treatment from Western nations. As the investigation unfolds, all eyes will be on how both governments navigate this complex situation for China. This probe serves as a clear message that it will not tolerate actions that threaten its economic interests. For Canada, the challenge will be finding a way to support its agricultural sector while maintaining its stance on trade issues with China. The outcome of this investigation could have far-reaching implications, not only for the canola industry but for the broader trade relationship between the two countries. And as the global economy continues to grapple with supply chain disruptions, inflationary pressures, and shifting alliances, this is just one of many flashpoints that could further strain the already delicate balance between the world's major economies. This latest move by China has also reignited debates in Canadian political circles about the country's approach to China. Some lawmakers have called for a more cautious and measured approach, warning that aggressive trade measures could backfire and lead to even more severe economic consequences. Others argue that standing up to China is necessary to protect Canada's economic sovereignty and its industries from being overwhelmed by cheap Chinese imports. The debate reflects the broader challenges that many Western nations face in their dealings with China, a country that is both a crucial trading partner and a geopolitical rival. There is also the question of how this dispute will affect the broader relationship between China and the West, with the US and the EU also taking steps to limit China's access to certain markets and technologies. The trade war shows no signs of abating. At the center of this conflict is the question of economic power and influence. China's rapid rise over the past few decades has upended the global economic order, and many Western nations are now grappling with how to respond to this new reality. Whether through tariffs, sanctions, or diplomatic pressure, the West is clearly trying to contain China's influence. But as China's actions in this latest canola dispute show, Beijing is not going to sit idly by and allow itself to be sidelined. China's economic strategy has always been about maintaining balance in global trade while ensuring that its own industries thrive. The anti-dumping probe against Canada serves as a reminder of how sensitive China is to external pressures, especially when its largest trading partners take steps that Beijing sees as attempts to curb its influence. The timing of this probe is particularly significant, coming just as Canada and its Western allies intensify efforts to limit China's dominance in key markets like electric vehicles and metals. The tariffs imposed by Canada, following closely behind the US and the EU, signal a unified front against what these nations view as unfair trade practices by China. But Beijing's response has been swift and calculated. By targeting canola imports, China isn't just responding in kind, it is hitting a sector that is critically important to Canada's economy. Canola is a crop that many Canadian farmers depend on for their livelihood, and with over half of Canada's canola exports going to China, this investigation could have a devastating impact on the industry. Farmers across Canada are now caught in the middle of this geopolitical struggle, and the repercussions could be severe. Lawrence Macaulay, the Canadian Farm Minister, has made it clear that the government will stand behind its farmers, but there's only so much Ottawa can do to mitigate the damage if China decides to take further action. Trade disputes of this magnitude often lead to prolonged economic pain, and Canadian farmers know that the road ahead could be a tough one. While China's probe is focused on canola, it's worth noting that this is part of a broader strategy. Beijing has also announced an anti-dumping investigation into Canadian chemical imports, further escalating the situation. By broadening the scope of its actions, China is sending a message that it will use its economic leverage wherever it sees fit to retaliate against measures it deems hostile. The chemicals under investigation are critical for various industries, and a negative outcome for Canadian exporters in this area could result in significant financial losses. If you are enjoying this video so far, please don't forget to subscribe, share the video, and comment. At the core of this dispute lies a fundamental clash of economic ideologies. Canada, along with its Western allies, is attempting to push back against China's rise through tariffs and trade restrictions, arguing that Beijing's trade practices are unfair and damaging to local industries. China, on the other hand, views these actions as unjustified attempts to limit its growth and influence on the world stage. The anti-dumping probe into Canadian canola is just the latest manifestation of this broader conflict, but it's unlikely to be the last. As the probe unfolds, there will be significant attention on how the Canadian government chooses to navigate the situation. Macaulay's statements offer reassurance to the farming community, but words alone won't be enough if the investigation leads to tariffs or restrictions on Canadian canola imports. The Canola Council of Canada has voiced its confidence that Canadian producers are not engaging in dumping, but the final decision rests with Chinese authorities, and given the political climate, it's difficult to predict what the outcome might be. The markets, however, have already made their concerns clear. The sharp rise in China's rapeseed meal futures and the corresponding drop in Canadian canola prices reflect the uncertainty that now hangs over the industry. Traders are bracing for further volatility as the situation develops. And there's a growing sense that this could just be the beginning of a more prolonged and intense trade conflict between China and Canada. The broader geopolitical implications of this dispute cannot be ignored. The US and the EU are closely watching how China responds to Canada's tariffs, as it could offer clues about how Beijing might react to similar measures from other Western nations. The coordinated effort to impose tariffs on Chinese goods is part of a larger strategy to reduce dependency on Chinese products and protect domestic industries, but it's clear that China will not allow this to happen without pushing back. China's status as the world's largest oilseed importer gives it considerable leverage in this situation. For Canada, losing access to the Chinese market would be a devastating blow to its canola industry. But for China, finding alternative suppliers could also be challenging. While there are other oilseed exporters in the global market, none can match the scale of Canada's canola exports. This gives both sides a degree of leverage, but it also makes the stakes of this dispute incredibly high. For Canadian farmers, the immediate concern is how to mitigate the potential fallout from this investigation. Many are already exploring alternative markets, but it's not easy to replace a customer as large as China. The Canadian government, for its part, is likely to explore diplomatic channels to resolve the issue, but given the broader geopolitical context, a quick resolution seems unlikely. Both sides have a lot to lose, and neither seems willing to back down at this point. As the world watches this dispute unfold, it's a reminder of how interconnected the global economy has become. A trade conflict between two nations can have far-reaching consequences affecting markets, industries, and even consumers far beyond the borders of the countries involved. The canola dispute between China and Canada is about more than just tariffs and trade practices. It's about the shifting balance of power in the global economy and the growing tension between the world's largest economies. Thank you for your attention, and I welcome your thoughts and questions on this complex and vital subject. Do you want to watch more videos like this one? If yes, please like and share the video and subscribe to get exclusive videos about how phenomenally China is developing and growing its influence. Your subscriptions and likes motivate us to generate more content, so please keep supporting us. Check out this video showing on your screen right now, and I will see you on the other side.